let's be realistic. Most classrooms, they have more than 20 kindergartners. I can't fathom that, by the way. That is a nightmare to me.
Crazy. I can't fathom teaching elementary.
I
I'm so
know.
not wired that way. I am so not wired that way.
That's terrifying. Like they just learned how to stop pooping their pants and now you're going to try and teach them to write their name. That's insane
Yeah.
to me. Like wild, wild job. And so then to say like, hey, parents, like we want to partner with you to help your child get a little bit more individualized time on these things to make sure that they keep up. I don't feel like that's an unfair ask. And I feel like that is one of the things that has changed is I remember doing flashcards with my mom. I remember because big surprise, math was really hard for me. And so I had to do multiplication flashcards with my parents until I figured it out. And I remember crying and I probably ruined the whole family's mood.
The whole vibe.
With the whole
vibe.
vibe was ruined by me. I guarantee you. But we had to learn it because my parents were like, well, if you don't learn this, then you're not going to move on. And especially in those first few years, like that was one of the main deciding factors for me with making educational decisions for my kids is like, if they can't read at grade level by third grade, they are unlikely to ever get to grade level. And they will always be behind their peers because now they're using reading to learn about science and history and all these other things. And so it's like, okay, we need to really make sure that she can get there, right? And so I hope that mom's reading log makes up for anything that was missed in the work packets. Again, I also applaud that teacher because I think that is a really great way of responding, of being like, okay, like, because I think I would probably respond the same way. I wouldn't be like, no, your kid has to do this homework. I think it would very much be like, okay, well, let's figure out what's going to work for you and your family. I don't know what that would look like in a grade book. That would be really hard because like and I also don't know in kindergarten how grade books even work. I feel like it's just like smiley faces and like
stickers,
like emojis, you know,
Yeah.
like they were
You
here.
get a green star today. You get a yellow star. Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to a teacher at my school who is also a parent. And I was just talking about parenting stuff. And because I hope to one day be a parent, and it scares the crap out of me. And one of the things that this teacher said, she said, as a parent, try not to take the path of least resistance all the time. I was like, oh yeah, that really does make sense. Don't take the path of least resistance all the time because like, I think there are so many parents that are so stretched thin. They absolutely are. There's parents out there that are exhausted and they come home and their bills are tight, money's tight. They've got so much going on. And you know what? They do just want to give their kid their iPad. They need some time. I get it. I 100% get that. And I feel for those parents.
Yeah.
But there's other situations where don't take the path of least resistance. And now that is so easy for me to say as a dude who doesn't have a kid. I understand that. But I think most parents would say, yeah, that's probably pretty sound advice. And that's a good thing to say.
Yeah. And it's something that I've recently had to adjust with, because, you know, my husband just finished grad school. I, finished a year ago. And so we are very used to being stretched very thin and being very overtired with everything. And so we were sitting there trying to figure out with our kids and just working on, because we would go somewhere and they would be the kids that were acting a fool because we're not iPad parents. And a lot of parents who have kids like that just give them the iPad and we don't do that. But that means that they're acting a fool in public. And I'm like, this is embarrassing. Like they've got to get it together. And so we started talking about things that our parents did that we hadn't done yet. And so one of the things is chores. And being super intentional about eating at the table. Because a lot of times we would just like, I would make dinner and then we would eat like in the living room or whatever. And we kind of got into that habit over the course of a year. And now we eat dinner at the table and my son has to help me with the dishes and has to wipe off the table. And my daughter has to sweep and mop. And the fact that they now have like an expectation of them where they have to listen and obey and do a task that is annoying to them, but they have to do it because like, it just kind of like trains that. And I think that we kind of got into that habit, like you said, of like taking the easier way because we were just tired,
Yeah.
And it was really frustrating and really humbling to kind of be sitting there and being like, well, we can't keep doing what we're doing because this is embarrassing. Like our kids are acting wild. We do not want to be those parents. like we want to instill a sense of like discipline and like they need to be functioning people.
Mhm.
And it was really hard for a few days, but I got to tell you, like behaviors got way, way, way better
Yeah.
when we all of a
Yeah.
sudden were like, expectation is your butt is in that seat for dinner. And then you are going to clean and you are going to help because you are part of the family. And it's exactly what your friend had said, where it's like, okay, we're not going to be taking the path of least resistance
Yeah.
because,
And I apply that in my classroom as well, where I caught myself this week where I was trying to give a lesson, and one of my class periods, they're really chatty, really chatty. My other class periods, they're not super chatty. And my notes went really smooth in the other class periods. And then this one class period, they're really chatty. And I thought to myself, all right, let's just get through these notes in this presentation really quickly so we can just get to the activity. And I was like, no, wait a second. I'm taking the path of least resistance here. These
yeah,
kids are capable of stop talking, focus for a little bit, and pay attention to this information. I think as teachers, we can apply that in our classroom of don't take the path of least resistance. But the flip side of that is, yes, each class period, you do have to kind of tailor it to the kids that are in there and you do have to make some tweaks. But it's also okay to tell students, hey, this is going to be a little uncomfortable. By uncomfortable, I mean you're going to have to pay attention and do something that's not fun. And I
yeah,
think that's something that is really big with kids that they have to hear is we're going to do something that is not fun, but it's worth it. It's going to be okay. I remember
yeah,
when I was a kid, when I would do tutoring, I was always a bad reader. I was bad at math. I was bad at school. I was a really well behaved kid, but I sucked at school. I remember my parents would send me to tutoring, and it was not fun. Learning to read was not fun. But you know what's awesome now as an adult is I'm caught back up. I'm not behind on my reading because my parents put a lot of money and time and energy into helping me and giving me the resources that I needed to get caught back up. And I'm so lucky that my parents did that. There's other kids that they don't have that. I completely feel for those kids where when you, like the point you said, when you're if you get to third grade and you're not at reading level, stats show you're probably never going to get to grade level reading, which is horrible. Like that sucks
yeah.
for those kids.
Thank you so much for watching. Want more of those who can't do in your life? Well, you can watch the full episode right now. Just click on that little box over there. You see it? Right down there? But there it is. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. Okay, bye.